Snow.
Mud. Gravel.
Tarmac.
Danger.
Sideways.
Flat out.
Jumps.
Spectacular.
Welcome to the 2014 World Rally Championship.
And here's where the 2014 WRC adventure begins, Rally Monte Carlo. The drivers gathering in the Principality for the opening ceremony, joined as is customary by Prince Albert of Monaco. This classic event, traditionally one of the toughest on the calendar. Unpredictable, a mix of snow, ice and tarmac, all adding up to a true test of the world's greatest drivers, as it has been for decades.
Monte Carlo is special for the weather, for the condition. Is the roads are, especially this year, really fast and with a lot black top, really slippery places.
Here it's so easy to say when you're in the service park, I take these tires, but then the weather might be completely different out there in the mountains, so you really need to get the information from your safety crews when they drive through the stages.
The conditions can change vastly within 2 hours, so it's tricky. Obviously, to make the tire call, to get all the information right, is probably what makes Monte Carlo so special.
This kind of rally, you have to respect it a lot, and normally to win it, you never have to be 100%.
I've been here in full snow and in full dry, so you never know what's gonna really happen. But one thing is for sure, that it's always tricky.
Well, there's a very different look to this year's event, with a return to the Hautes-Alpes capital Gap for the opening phase, which features several stages not used for more than a decade. Come Friday, day 2, they'll decamp to Monte Carlo, tackling some notorious French mountain tracks, including the infamous and often treacherous Col de Turini by day, and then again a second run in the dark. A new season, and for the second year running we welcome a new team with the return of Hyundai, led by young Belgian Thierry Neuville, here alongside Dani Sordo, who'll compete in the tarmac events. Champions Volkswagen, the only team with an unchanged lineup, world number 1 Sebastian Ogier, partnered once again by Jari-Matti Latvala. Norway's Andreas Mikkelsen, again part of the VW setup. At Citroën, it's an all-new lineup. Briton Chris Meek is in the team full-time after a couple of rallies last year. He's joined by Norwegian Mads Osberg, who's made the switch from M-Sport. Moving in the opposite direction, Mikko Hirvonen is back with M-Sport after 2 seasons at Citroën. Alongside him, young Welshman Elvin Evans graduates to a full-time drive after impressing on his debut in Sardinia last year. Also joining the full-time WRC ranks, former F1 star Robert Kubica, fresh from winning the WRC2 Championship. He's definitely one to watch again in what promises to be an intriguing season. As is privateer Martin Prokop. The popular Czech driver will tackle 12 of the 13 rounds, also in a Ford. So that's the lineup. Here are the all-important dates. 13 rounds starting in Monte Carlo, then the full-blown snow of Sweden before the hot, dusty gravel tracks of Mexico. Poland makes a welcome return to the championship this year. Wales Rally GB providing the traditional finale in November. That's fully 10 months away, of course. Right now it all starts with a considerable challenge that is Monte Carlo. Wet, cold, every chance of snow, tyre choice critical, winter and studded rubber available if required. And here's how day 1 will shape up. 6 stages in the Hautes-Alpes area, a round gap, 2 loops of 3 either side of a lunchtime service, 126 competitive kilometres, almost 400 kilometres on the roads in between. And typical of this rally, changing conditions, a big factor. As we now join your commentator, John Desborough.
Kevin, 1911 was the first time they came here to rally, and pretty much ever since, that weather has been catching these drivers out. The French call it imprévisible, fickle. And the world champion Sébastien Ogier is going to have another word for it in about a couple of kilometres' time.
Gauche 100 mètres. Gauche 120 plus mini. Gauche 120 plus mini.
In the darkness, Thierry Neuville staring into the unknown. Despite all of his achievements last year, he's tried 3 times to finish this classic, and this is number 4. And it's going to last just a handful of kilometres.
Et piège droite 170 sur son. Ça va?
Ouais. C'est fini.
Ouais, je crois, ouais.
And as we have a look at that again, remember, on the Monte Carlo, there's no second chance with Rally 2.
Ça va?
Ouais.
That's it for Neuville's Hyundai debut. Mads Osberg claims not to fear the Alpine elements when he faces them, provided that is they're covered in snow, and more snow. He has trouble with just a little bit of slush.
Come in.
He's lucky to survive, but fortunate to find himself starting the car and facing in the right direction. But it's filthy weather, it's poor visibility so early in the morning, and maybe a case of hot head and cold tyres. A deep breath now for Elfyn Evans, one of 2 British drivers with a full season ahead of them, and that hasn't happened for over a decade.
Shining, 5 right. 5 right.
What a baptism of fire this is for the son of a former British champion, Gwyndaf, and he too has trouble keeping it pointing in the right direction. Robert Kubica refuses to give up. This is a hell of a first day at school for the man who almost lost his life at the wheel of a rally car. Let's see how he gets on this opening stage. We'll run his clock next to the world champion Sébastien Ogier. Ogier's time is set. That's the one in the green. The end of the stage is coming up for Kubica. The clock comes to a halt, and he's quicker by getting on for almost a second a kilometre.
Very difficult. Then we did mistake. We did some modification on the car, and we didn't lock the extra lights, so the lights were bouncing in the high speed. I couldn't see anything in high speed, but it's long rally, and this was most difficult stage of my life, definitely.
This is Chris Meek, who won this event for Citroën back in the noughties as a junior, but that wasn't in this beast of a car. And this opportunity, he admits, will mean nothing if he doesn't make something of it. And he curbs his enthusiasm for this massive career break and tiptoes his way to take the 5th fastest stage time.
That is a baptism of fire, to say the least. Incredible. No one expected that. I believe everyone was on the slick tyre, but first corner even caught me out. There was some snow and you couldn't see it in the darkness, and then after we went over the call, you're crawling. I remember watching my recce video last night. I think it was faster than this, so it was crazy start, but we're here, so it's good.
Chris Meek survives on the stage that takes out Thierry Neuville and his brand new Hyundai.
We had not the good tires, but then I adapt my rhythm quite quickly. But obviously, in a fast right-hander, I lose the front, and I try to avoid a pole. But then, the rear slides, and we just touch it with the rear, and we bent the exhaust and the rear of the car, and we have to retire there. So it's obviously not what we wanted, not what the job we had to do.
So what a start to the new season. Robert Kubica, the early leader, ahead of Frenchman Bouffier. Clipping a wall cost the world champion almost 20 seconds. Meek is 6th, Hänninen with work to do. His first stage back in the Fiesta, leaving a bit to be desired. An eventful start to the new campaign then, and if they thought it was going to get any easier, well, they could not be more wrong, as we shall see very shortly. Welcome back to Rally Monte Carlo, where a fascinating start to the WRC season is unfolding. In this, the opening phase of the rally, this year based in Gap. They love their sport here. Gap is birthplace of world champion Sébastien Ogier. It was voted the most popular major sporting city in France last year. And once again, plays host to the WRC service park until tomorrow, when the crews decamp to Monte Carlo, a fitting venue for the most famous rally of them all. Living up to its reputation, expect more of the unexpected now as we rejoin John.
Kevin, you have to admire the dedication of these fans in this lingering chill. Dedication and a good bobble hat. So, then there was one Hyundai I'm talking about, and this is Dani Sordo, but a fan of the Monte. Always felt comfortable rallying here, and now he's the new team's last hope. Sordo flying solo, his tyres crossed. More on that crossing of tyres business in just a second. Now, they do say that the way to finish this event is to pretend that your valuable car is actually your dad's. Work with me on this. You tell yourself you've borrowed it, and your dad doesn't know. So you're forced to go carefully, Mads Osberg. Carefully. Mads gets away with this, and between ourselves, his dad doesn't need to know about that. But this is the ever-present danger. You never know if you're on the right tyres. You've never got complete grip, and oversteer is always there. Mads in 5th place. Plenty more to come where that came from. Now, this year there are 4 types of tyres for the drivers to choose from. Robert Kubica has chosen slicks. They worked on stage 1, described by Robert as the hardest of his life.
Prawy 3 media 20, lewy 2 plus puszczą logik 30, lewy 5 hamuj 40, lewy nawrót ciasny.
You can only imagine how much fun it is driving in these conditions, in this light. Robert wins stage 2 to go with stage 1, and he keeps the lead as well, thanks to a couple of hefty cuts. In fact, I want you to take a look at this mini leaderboard, and he almost trebles the size of his lead with Meek and Bouffier ready to pounce. But I say pounce, where? In this weather? Here, stage 3? And if so, when? Push too hard and it could be terminé. And the world champion knows he has to be patient. You know, he was born and brought up round here near Gap, but even he is taking extra care downhill. Will you look at this? Can you imagine? Because the world champion admits he's on the wrong tyres for this kind of road. Just coast. Just pray. Just try and resist the temptation to keep that right foot in.
Sebastian, the rear wheel's a bit bent. That's from the first stage, yeah? How difficult is it to drive with that?
It's not an advantage, of course, but we were careful, just try to finish the loop. We were completely wrong with the meteo this morning, and the rally is still long.
This is Brian Bouffier, who has wasted no time in forcing his way into the reckoning here. The Frenchman was hired as Hyundai's test driver last year. You might be able to see the irony. And the Frenchman has form as well. In 2011, he won this event. And he's crossed his tyres now. He's got a mixture of snow and slick rubber, and it works again. He takes the lead off Kubica.
I think we did a quite good tyre choice. I tried to exploit them as much as possible, but for sure was not easy, but better than the guys in slick. Okay, I think up to now we are doing quite a good job. We stay on the road, which is really not easy. So up to now quite good. I'm quite happy.
Robert, meanwhile, is going slowly backwards and is also passed by this guy, Chris Meek, who last year thought the pole was going to beat him in the race to this car. Chris got the deal, got the car, and now takes second place off Robert as well. Why? Because he's got those snow tyres on, and you can see here why he needs them.
So another dramatic twist, and it's all changed at the top. Brian Bouffier storming into the lead thanks to his tyre choice. Chris Meek and Hyundai's Dani Sordo also benefiting. They're up to second and third. Kubica down to fourth, having lost almost a minute and a half. Back at service in Gap, the drivers have time to reflect on one tough morning back at work.
You know, I was a bit frustrated because on the first stage it was a lot of snow, and I knew I had my two snow tires in the boot and I couldn't use them. But anyway, I must be happy because now it's working well.
It's a very difficult morning. Nobody expected it to be as the winter conditions. The temperature dropped immediately as we left the service park and it began to snow. And luckily we had two winters in the boot, but incredibly difficult morning. We were lucky with the tyres and we find ourselves in second position, so it's good for the moment, but a long way to go.
You're an expert at speed on tarmac, but what was that first stage like? Was it a surprise to you?
There was nothing to do with tarmac. Wherever there was tarmac, there was a lot of water, ice, snow, dust, gravel, so yeah, difficult.
What was the word that went through your mind after that first stage?
I can't really repeat that.
That was a bit of an eye-opener.
Yeah, for sure. You know, almost immediately into the stage we started having snow and not expecting it at all. So we had to tootle through on slick. So difficult experience.
Our choice was quite good, and that's the reason why. Well, at the end, after three stages, we served. So it's okay. It's with the weather condition and everything, but no, we can be happy with this position at the moment.
Now look, I'll keep it a secret, but what do you choose by way of tyres this afternoon?
I don't know, and if it's a secret, I can tell you.
Well, for the second loop, we are going with full snow tires on the car. It's a safe choice, and also according to the information we had from the stages, it should be okay.
It is still raining. Now we, the spectators, have a decision to make. Do we go for the full jacket, or do we improvise and go for a bin liner? This weather is not getting any better, but Dani Sordo is making progress. His team can monitor his drive now. They can learn about the car. That's what they said they wanted to do in Monte Carlo. Sordo being careful to look after his car, and by doing so, he's thrilling Hyundai because he finishes this stage, that's stage 4, in third place.
Indeed he does, John. Some good news then for Hyundai as Sordo stakes his claim for the podium. Bouffier still leads by 27 seconds now ahead of Meek, but it's Jari-Matti Latvala who wins that stage and finally makes it up into the top 10. As the crews now head through the countryside of the Utz Alp, passing through the villages on their way to stage 5. Plenty of interest here, even in the road section. But after that bright turn for Dani Sordo, suddenly things not looking so good. The Spaniard stops on the road section and he has problems. Sordo apparently is struggling to restart that Hyundai.
Dani was wrong. The battery was, I want to start the car and not battery in the car, so no, we can do nothing. Not push it? Yeah, but it's not battery, it's impossible. I tried to push and everything, but we need for the pump and everything, you know.
and after some early promise, Sordo is forced to admit defeat, which means both Hyundais are now out. On this, they return to the WRC even before the end of the opening day. Dani Sordo down and out. We have 2 more stages still to run on this opening day, and they are next. Welcome back to the opening round of the 2014 World Rally Championship. Monte Carlo proving a big challenge for the world's elite drivers and the WRC's leading support category. Ukrainian Yuri Protasov finished 3rd in last year's series, and he kicked off this year's campaign in fine style, building a healthy 36-second lead by the end of day 1. Germany's Armin Kramer moved into 2nd place on the drenched roads of stage 4, maintaining consistent pace throughout the day, while behind him, Italian Lorenzo Bertelli was left to rue a costly spin early on in the snow of stage 3. He had been setting the early pace. Bertelli's caution after his spin has left him 2 minutes off the lead and well over a minute behind 2nd place Armin Kramer. Protasov then, the man to beat in the WRC 2 series, as we now rejoin John.
Back to the main event. What do we see here? Water. Yes, plenty of that around this weekend. Now, I said earlier on that the regulations on the Monte don't give a driver a second chance. Well, that's not entirely true, because what they do allow them to do is to learn from their lessons. And the world champion is one of those. He learns his lesson. He wins the final 2 stages of the day by ditching the slick tyres and enjoying the better snow specification rubber. Robert Kubica has impressed everybody on this, his first day, and he's even had to deal with something rattling around in the footwell of his car. If we listen in, we might be able to hear it. If you don't look at this unbelievable speed that he's driving at, that is. Chris Meek is on a tyre selection at the moment that he has never even tested before, let alone competed on. But so far, so good.
And 5 right minus into slow, 4 left minus tightens. And
Meek and his co-driver Paul Nagel are too far behind the rally leader to kind of be tempted into any rash move as they come to the end of day 1. This has been a dream drive. He's in 2nd place on the Monte, and he's also got his sense of humour.
Chris, I saw a nod of the head from Paul there. That probably tells me that you're up to 2nd at the end of day 1 on Monte Carlo. That is some dream, isn't it?
It is, but there's a long way to go to get to Monte Carlo. But it's nice to nip in front of Robert again, and it's good for road position. Now I'm the one that can kick out the dirt tomorrow.
And finally, back to the Hyundai situation, even though that is a fiesta. This is Brian Bouffier, who is rubbing salt in the new team's wounds. On the day that Neuville and Sordo retire, Bouffier, as a privateer entry on this event, leads on his return into service in Gap. And he's their test driver.
So after a treacherous opening day, Frenchman Brian Bouffier in his Ford Fiesta leads the Monte Carlo Rally. Chris Meek just 7/10ths ahead of Robert Kubica. World champion Ogier is 4th, some 47 seconds behind the leader. Elvin Evans can be happy with 6 ahead of the Finns, Lappala and Hirvonen. All in all, a day of mixed emotions.
When you are leading after 2 stages and then you get caught by a lot of snow in one stage and we lost nearly 1.5 minutes. It's always painful, but I have to be realistic, and if someone would tell me that I will win 2 stages in day 1 in Monte Carlo, I will sign it straight away.
It was a really tough day. You know, we had all the condition like a real Monte Carlo. We had mud, we had some snow, some rain. So, and we could go through this weather condition. How to say, with a good tire choice. We had quite, how to say, we have we have chosen also a good technical choice on the car, so all was working more or less perfectly.
Well, that's the end of a fascinating opening day of the season. History suggests there are plenty more twists and turns to come as the crews now head for some of the most notorious stages in World Rally. Hope you can join John Desborough and myself, Kevin Piper, for the trip to Monte Carlo tomorrow. For now, though, thanks for watching.